Good afternoon and welcome to this free preview webinar for our new Global Language Strategy Masterclass with instructor Melissa Biggs. Hi, Melissa. How are you today?
Good. How's everybody else? It's really great to be here.
It's great to see you. So before we begin and I turn over the floor, I'd just like to make a couple of housekeeping remarks. We're very excited. I work for the Ulrich Hennis, so here with us today at the Localization Institute. We've recently launched a new masterclass program and are thrilled to add Melissa's course to this offering of ours. The class will take place, it begins on February 11th, and there will be a total of 4 sessions taking place on February 11th, 18th, 23rd, and 25th. And you can find more information about this course on our website at localizationinstitute.com. For this masterclass, we have decided to limit the total number of students for each edition of the class to just 20. We aim to keep this very interactive. We want you to be able to actually interface directly with Melissa during the class sessions. There will be time for Q&A at the end of every class session, and you'll actually receive presentation slides at the end of each of the sessions. I did want to mention we will not be recording any of the sessions. You will need to be present on the day of the scheduled session in order to keep up to date with the class. We do this for 2 reasons: to protect our intellectual property and also so that you can feel free to share your experiences and ask questions without fear of having that republished publicly. Today's webinar, we will have a presentation from our instructor. Please save your questions for the end of the webinar, and I will be happy to prompt them for Melissa at that time. You can submit the questions at any time through our Zoom chat feature here. So please go ahead and feel free to submit the questions at any time. At this time, it's my pleasure to turn over the floor to the founder of the Localization Institute, Ulrich Hennis, to introduce Melissa. Hi, Ulrich, how are you?
Thank you, Alex. Thank you, Melissa. Yeah, my name is Ulrich Hennis. I'm joining this webinar from snowy, wintry Madison, Wisconsin. I'm looking out at snow, and as it should be in January. And I'm really thrilled that we'll be offering this class, this master class with Melissa Biggs. I met Melissa about 23 years ago when we launched the Localization Institute, and Melissa joined our first event, a localization management only for clients roundtable that was held on the Pacific Coast. Melissa at that time, if I remember it, was with Sun Microsystems, and she quickly got involved by serving on the advisory board and helped plan, I think, the meeting for 5-6 years. I got to know her really well, and I came away very impressed. Melissa is one of these rare individuals that is both very practical. She can actually do the things she talks about, and she's also has a really amazing analytical mind. And we both know, I think we all know people who are good at one or the other, and they're all very, very important. But the rare combination of someone who can analyze it, teach it in a very comprehensible way. Is that the right word? Oops. Anyhow, and also having the experience of having implemented all of that in a lifetime of client-side engagement is very rare. But those are exactly the people I'm looking for when we create a master class. And the other thing that I find exciting besides having Melissa to teach you is that I think for the first time in 25 years of Localization Institute history, do we have such a comprehensive seminar. Normally we start where we say, let us teach you about localization. So here you have a product that needs to be localized, and then we branch out into project management tools, QA, what have you. But what Melissa does in this class, she starts much earlier. She says, a company wanting to go global needs to, it will affect all aspects of a company's operation as they go global and as they want to incorporate different language products. And in this seminar, she will look at that impact and help you to navigate and negotiate the change that will be happening in your enterprise. Um, at that very first seminar we did back in 1997 in Cupertino, a 2 day introduction into localization, I was talking already about that. I said, this was many localization managers. I said, the major challenge for you is going to be you're handed the task to translate or localize this manual, this user interface. But what's going to be happening if your company is successful is you're going to be this entry into the global market is going to really change your company everywhere in marketing and human resources, in product development. And you'll have to bring that about to a large degree without having a lot of power. Now, here we are 24 years later with Melissa giving us a perspective of how this is done right from scratch. Now, again, this will be easier said than done, but at least now you have a blueprint taught by someone who has been practicing that for many, many years. Melissa, uh, please go ahead.
Wow. What a fantastic introduction. Thank you so much, Ulrich. And again, you've already covered a lot of the issues and factors that we want to talk about in this class. So let me give you a little bit of background on who I am, what I've done in my career, um, both in localization and in some other spaces in technology. So I really started out my career in technology in content. I managed for a number of years technical publications groups, and one of the most impactful that's still impactful today was managing a group that was putting together all the documentation for the essentials of AI. And again, this was 20 odd years ago. Today, here it is again in the forefront of what we're doing. So that's a little bit about my background in publications. I went from there to starting to manage localization at Sun Microsystems. I spent 20 years at Sun Microsystems in different management roles in localization, including co-managing a corporate initiative that looked at strategy for international and global issues, including many of the topics we're going to discuss in the course on global language strategy. From Sun, I went to Oracle as part of an acquisition and worked with their localization group for a couple of years, and then moved on to a data management company where I managed the marketing aspect of localization for a new segment of the market covering data management questions. I've, over the past 2.5 years, been working as a consultant. I have my own consulting firm with a couple of partners, and we work with different LSPs as well as clients to build out their localization um, systems and also to solve many of their problems that are, as we all know, are part of localization. So let's dive in and talk a little bit about this class. This class is really the result of what I've seen in the industry over 20 years. And always language strategy is part of going global. This class, as a result, is for those practitioners who really need to make the decisions about what it means to have a global language strategy over the entire company. So we're not limiting this to practitioners who are just in the localization space. We're encouraging, if you are in that space, to tell other people in your company about the benefits of this type of course. So we're looking at people in marketing, in support functions, in sales, in training, all of the functions that really are decision makers in going global for a company. The course itself is for practitioners and leaders who've been in the industry and in their leadership roles for at least 7 to 8 years and have had global responsibilities, so that we're really targeting the right level of leader who will push an agenda and push a strategy across your company. The course itself is built in four different sections. The first section, we're going to look at an introduction to the language strategy. So we'll map guidelines for a corporate strategy. We'll look at language and cultural coverage that's a requirement for both your brand and your products within the company. Um, Following that session, we'll go into a session around guidance and groundwork, all of those skills that you'll need to be looking at and bringing into play in order to make those decisions for a language strategy. These can include the kinds of markets you have, data on content, your customer experience, the types of financial measurements that you're using to show what your business looks like in various markets. The third session will focus on building out your language strategy, looking at customer experience, talking a lot about tiering your languages, partnering with others, and the kind of coverage you're going to need for your content and throughout the life cycle in the company. Finally, the last session, we will take up some implementation issues that come up in all segments of the business. That includes internationalization, looking at content considerations in your content roadmaps, checking in on the tools and media that you'll need, and then finally putting together a summary of those implementation issues and the checkpoints that are going to accompany any integration of a language strategy. I think this is going to be a really exciting class. There are so many factors. So many companies go into the area of defining a language as the first thing they talk about. But what does that really mean? Are those language choices the right ones? How do they expect to maintain them over time? What are some of the challenges that will come up? What types of issues may come through your executive stakeholders? Do they understand the importance of the languages that you're going to be maintaining over a period of time? And then how do you look at change in your strategy, and who makes those decisions for how language strategy really works? And finally, does everyone in your organization understand the underpinnings, the dynamics of putting together a language strategy, the tools and the technology that underlie the whole strategy, and keep it running smoothly over time? All of these things are so important and critical, and they seem to get swept under the rug many times. So this course is really an attempt to bring out those issues, to help educate, to give you tools that are going to make you successful and your company overall successful in maintaining and managing a language strategy. So with that, I want to stop and take any questions that people have, or look at some of the issues that you might have with a language strategy.
So the first question I see for you, Melissa, would just be, and you just defined a whole bunch of aspects of it, but overall, is a language strategy a simple formula? And is there a common language strategy framework that people can use?
Oh, those are great. Both of those are great questions. So let's look at the first one, which is it a formula? No, it is not. So many companies claim to have a language strategy, and for various reasons, it can't be a formula, because language strategy has to be built on what your company's goals and customer focus really is. That's the baseline for any strategy. So you may be a B2B company, you may be a consumer company. Those are very different scenarios for putting together a language strategy. and a formula doesn't really fit.
Great. Thank you. We have a question from Marianne. She wonders, can you provide some examples of the tools that you might use or discuss in the class? For example, will there be an outline of ways to measure financially the success of your strategy?
We'll give you some tools to do that that are used in baseline companies. Again, many of those tools are going to be dependent on what your organization has available for you. That varies strongly from company to company. Some organizations have a really robust set of tool sets that everyone has access to. Other companies, it's much harder to get those tools, and you often have to
Do you
create
need new ice pack?
those tools yourself.
Great. Thank you. Another question is, can my company just define its desired languages, then go translate?
Well, I wouldn't suggest that that's the best way to move forward. Um, as I said earlier, the whole language strategy has a lot of underpinnings and things you need to long term be successful. It might be difficult to do that. I know we all work in agile environments these days where we develop and release, develop and release. Some of that is still valid for a language strategy, but you're going to want to have those underpinnings in place and understand all of the forces that and the stakeholders that come into play in putting together a language strategy and what that means to your customers. So you're going to have to do some work
Sure.
before throwing that over the wall.
Great. We have another great question from Erica wonders, currently I'm a one-person department at an association and we're growing so quickly. I feel like I will need some help. Can you suggest how I can get buy-in from upper management, et cetera, to get more people and to ask for the tools that you've been talking about?
Again, this is all about and I think we're going to talk a lot about this in the class, so I don't want to do a deep dive into this right now,
Sure.
but this is all about being an influencer and having influencing skills. If you have that experience that I talked about earlier, like being in a senior lead role where you're comfortable already interacting with your upper management and really driving decisions, this is really critical in making sure that you can get a program put together. I'm going to talk in the program about some other techniques that you can use to actually get this done with your upper management. I don't want to go into that at this time,
Sure. We
but
don't want to.
definitely there are some great techniques that you can use to make that case.
And that makes total sense, Melissa. I think you gave us a great flavor of what we can expect. But yeah, we want to protect the content of the course. But you'll go much more into that. I know that you'll be dealing with stakeholders, for instance, in one of the sessions in a much dive.
Absolutely.
Great. Another question coming in from Luz. She wonders, what about the other way around? You have languages that may not seem to be used. Can you justify removing them?
Oh, that's a great question, Luz. I love that question. I've seen that happen in multiple companies. It's one of those issues that a lot of people in localization, especially, think is very painful because they don't want to consider it. But think of this as just part of your business. This is part of your company's business, and you have to do what's right for revenues. So yes, you may have to remove a language. And there are other instances too that we'll talk about in the course where you may have a suggestion for a language, but once you dig down a little bit, you find out that it that market may not be the right market for providing language support for a number of reasons that have nothing to do with language. So we'll talk about that too. And this is just a teaser, but it's really a factor that comes out in many companies when they want to what we call deprecate a language or even not consider that language.
Great. Thank you. Marianne is asking a question about how long each of the 4 sessions are. They do vary in length. We have one of the sessions is an hour long. 2 of them are going to be an hour and 15, and I think it's the final session that is going to be 90 minutes long. You can find out a lot more information, including the schedule for these sessions, again, on the Localization Institute website. I believe it's localizationinstitute.com/GLSMC for Global Language Strategy Masterclass. I'll go ahead and put that address here in the chat in just a moment as well. Melissa, another question was related to the experience level. It's indicated that people should be somewhat advanced in their role. This isn't just an entry-level course, but could you briefly define the target audience and what a basic minimum of experience in this field would be for it to be valuable as a master
Yeah,
class?
we feel that to really benefit and to be able to move this kind of initiative forward, you need to be in a leadership position, a senior leadership position in your organization. That could be localization, it could be marketing, it could also be product or even support. We're looking for those leaders who really need to make considered decisions on how to move their company forward. This isn't about a small function. This is about how you get your customers to have those features that they need in order to do business with you, in order to be successful and to come back to you as a valued participant and stakeholder in your products and in your company.
Great. I think that's really valuable and insightful and will help people decide. I do want to mention today, if anyone else has any questions, please feel free to submit them right now. As we come to a close here shortly of the webinar, we will be republishing a recording of this to the website tomorrow, so you can go back and watch it again. Also wondering if someone had a specific question about the class that they think of in the next, in the coming days and weeks before it starts, would it be okay if I connect them via email and you could provide them with another answer?
Absolutely. I'd love that. That would be really great. And I just want to also emphasize going back a question. When someone was asking about the length of these sessions,
Mhm.
I want to reemphasize what you said, Alex, earlier, which is this particular class, I would really like to keep it open to all the participants to answer your questions, to look at your specific use cases around language strategy so that we can make this really valuable for everyone and to really bring out the complexity and the strengths of having such a strategy. So I want to have exercises in the class as well as get a lot of communication from participants. So this is highly participatory. Thanks.
Great. Well, I know I'm excited to get this class going. February can't come soon enough, and we're just thrilled. I want to, on behalf of Ulrich and on behalf of the Localization Institute, Melissa, thank you so much for taking the time to do this. We're so excited about your class. I can't wait to get the first session started on February 11th. Again, if you have any questions or if you want to find out more about the course, please visit that localizationinstitute.com. The link is there in your chat window. And we hope to see you on February 11th.
And I just want to thank everybody who participated in this webinar. I'm so excited about this class. And thank you, Ulrich and Alex, for your participation too and your enthusiasm. I think this is a great initiative that we don't spend enough time thinking about in localization and other parts of the corporate environment. So thank you all for joining today.
Thanks again, Melissa. We hope you all have a great afternoon, evening, wherever you are, and join us in February. Have a great day.
Look forward to seeing you. Bye now.
Bye-bye.